All right. Well, it looks like we have about 18 new coaches at least that in the league this fall. So, it looks like my Granville friends are here. Thanks for joining us, guys. So, even if you have to hop off early or those who couldn't make it, we will get a copy of the slide deck and this recording. I'm gonna make sure. Yep, it is recording to you. So, but otherwise, just for the sake of time, we're going to go ahead and get rolling here. So, thank you, everybody, first and foremost, for joining in the esports world and signing up to coach or be a sponsor or how you ever want to view your role, director. Eric will kind of talk about some of that stuff in a little bit. But regardless, thank you for doing something cool and unique for your kids. First and foremost. So really appreciate the time and hanging out with us after school for a little bit. We try and do this each season just to number one, connect you to kind of one of our what I consider a super coach or veteran coaches. So joining us today is going to be Eric Heinz. He is the coach and a teacher at Divine Child High School. Eric's been doing this for a while now. He's helped us out on this new coaches meeting or webinar for a couple years as well. And Divine Child's got an excellent esports program. They've won state titles with us. They've been in big regional tournaments. And then this last spring, they actually won a national Rocket League tournament, which is really cool to see. So Eric is the guy. If you have questions, his brain is the one to pick, and that's why we invite him on. And Eric is super passionate about helping others and growing the esports environment and landscape in our state. So we really appreciate Eric for joining us today. For those who don't know me, I am Ryan Casey. I'm the director of esports for MHSEL. There's all of our contact info there. We're going to try to keep this casual today, just kind of walk through. I got a couple slides here at the beginning, but really I'm going to turn it over to Eric and let him just talk about kind of tips and tricks and strategies, things that whether you are new to gaming or not, new to coaching esports or not, or just new to our league specifically, just going to kind of get you all the information you need to get rolling for the fall season and to hit the ground running, really is that. And then we're going to save some time at the end where you can ask questions, of course, or ask questions along the way. That's no big deal as well. Again, this is pretty casual, pretty informal, but just want to make sure you have everything you need to be successful and have your kids be successful this fall. Looks like, Jesse, can you hear us now? It's a little better. Okay.
All right.
Perfect. So again, I'm hoping at least you can just drop it in the chat, and I'll be kind of managing the chat a little bit. Obviously, if you want to unmute and ask a question, that's totally fine too. But I'll kind of keep track of the questions and interject with Eric every once in a while as we go. But if you can just add something you want to learn on our meeting today, that would help make sure we get everything covered. As I mentioned, we're going to talk strategies, skills, and traits needed from an esports coach, kind of technical needs. Make sure you have a really basic understanding of the different games you're going to be playing, learn about our league specifically and the format, maybe some upcoming events. And then, as I mentioned, want to make sure we get all those questions asked. So I do have a bunch of resources at the end. We probably won't take time to discover, but as I mentioned, this is recorded. We'll get you the slide deck. Got a bunch of links for resources for those who want to dive in a little more. But really, the reason we are here is because we feel that, no matter the results, when students compete, your school culture is going to win. And hopefully you'll find out a good chunk of the kids that are going to be doing esports with your program this year. I'm going to go ahead and assume have not done many extracurricular activities before, right? They probably aren't football players or volleyball players or band kids, whatever it might be. Some are for sure, but others are not. And so really it's a cool opportunity to have those kids get engaged with your school, maybe for the first time, and maybe they're going to wear your school spirit wear and the school colors, and we're going to help hold them accountable for grades and behavior and attendance, and hopefully it'll end up being a win-win for everybody. I'm assuming you've seen some of this on a 101 webinar or from our website or an email, but we are getting ready to start our fourth year. We do encourage schools to reward varsity letters to their esports program athletes. Sometimes I know different stipulations at your school and policies require you to start as a club for so many years. And then once you've shown you've been successful, it graduates to a varsity sport. So hopefully that'll happen at some point. We are gearing up for the fall season, then hopefully you'll have such a great time. You want to do it again in the spring. And we have 9 different game titles. So there should be something for everybody, because they probably are already playing these games anyways. And if you're at a smaller school, I know Memphis, for example, is a junior, senior high, right? If you have junior high kids that might be interested, we are starting a middle school league. And so my colleague Nina is the person in charge of that. So you can reach out to me, or I can connect you with Nina if you think the middle school kiddos are going to be interested in this as well. I'm going to keep moving on just for the sake of time. There is our heat map. It is growing. You can see we're expanding into northern Michigan. We got a handful of UP schools. We got some work to do kind of in the southwest corner, southern part of the state, I would say. But we are growing. So that's exciting to see as well. And really here is kind of the rough schedule for this fall. And it doesn't really change. So it keeps it consistent for you, keeps it consistent for your kids. We have certain games on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Most coaches treat Mondays as like a practice or scrimmage day. All the matches start at 4:00. Most of them are probably done within about an hour. There are some games that are a little longer with League of Legends. I know that can be a little longer. Obviously, Friday's open as well if you want to practice or scrimmage on that day. But depending on how many teams you have, how many kids are involved, you might be there 2 days. You might be there all 4 days. It is possible. So otherwise, the last day for enrollments is this Friday. So if you have any friends or colleagues at neighboring school districts that have been talking about this, that want to do this, please pass them along my name or our website. We can try and get them in as quick as we can. If not, they'll probably be holding off until springtime. But the regular season is going to start next Monday. Playoffs are going to start right after Thanksgiving. And then our semifinals and championships will be in person at Oakland University on December 9th, which is a Saturday. And that's something we've been doing for a couple of years now. And we've got really great feedback from the coaches and the kids. Being able to compete in person against their peers has been something they've appreciated. So we're excited to do that again. Otherwise, I'm going to stop talking and turn it over to the person you really need to hear from, which is Eric. So Eric, thanks for being here. Go ahead and take it away.
My pleasure. This is really where my passion is. I love jumping in, helping people. I've been doing esports. I'm going to show my age, probably close to 10, 12 years now. Started really small at Gabriel Richard Riverview. Then I went to Centerline High School, and now I'm here at Divine Child. I'm really proud and happy to say that as we look at the roster of titles here right now, Playverse and MHSEL has just been growing year after year. I think the very first year I did it, there was 3 titles on this slide: League of Legends, Smash, and Rocket League, and everything else was regional, if you knew about it. Now, as I check my notes to remind myself, it's actually easier to list the regional tournaments that we have now rather than the state ones. And our regionals are going to be Hearthstone and NBA 2K, with a rumor that Splat might be coming to a state level. I think Ryan's still looking at the numbers there, but everything else you're looking at here is an in-state title, which means your players will be playing other individuals from Michigan. To cover what you need for each one of these titles, Ryan, if you would be so kind. I'm slipping up. Looking at League of Legends, that is going to be a PC or a Mac-based game. Smash Brothers is your Nintendo Switch. Rocket League can be played from PC or console. I know a couple teams that actually play on Nintendo Switch that do very, very well, even though most people will tell you you can't compete on a Nintendo Switch. I have seen them do well. And Splatoon 3 is also on the Nintendo Switch. Something I would like to point out on this slide, out of all of these titles, the only one where you can actually bring multiple players together on one Switch is going to be Smash Ultimate. League of Legends, Rocket League, Splatoon 3, each player is going to require their own equipment. And that might help you make that decision if you're still on cusp of, am I buying more PCs? Am I buying more Switches? Maybe that will help you out with that decision. Go ahead, Ryan. And then for the rest of our titles, we now have Mario Kart this year as an in-state title. That is a 4-player Nintendo Switch. Hearthstone, your choice of PC or console. And then Madden and NBA 2K are both PS4 titles. I believe Playverse decided to stick with PS4s as it opens up our availability of players larger by using that PS4 instead of switching over to PS5, especially like a year ago, PS5s were still really hard to get a hold of. If your players do have PS5s, all you have to do is install the PS4 version of the game and you'll be able to play. Please make sure that your players on PS5s have that PS4 version installed. I myself got caught up on that last year. We were all excited for a game one day. One of my players loads up, he can't figure out why they won't connect, and he was still running the PS5 version. So we had to forfeit that match, get everything loaded up and switched over for him. So before you ever jump in, have your players load that up. Make sure it's on that PS4 version. And then this year we also have Overwatch 2, which is going to be PC or console as well. I think it's console agnostic on that as well. So Xbox, PlayStation. I don't know if they'll run Nintendo Switch on that one. I'll have to double check that. So I think that does us for games. And let's talk about your tech needs. This slide has definitely gotten significantly shorter over the years as Playverse has really brought online their Playverse resources page. Ryan will have a slide later in this slide deck showing you where you can find this information. It's super easy to find. This link right here in the slide deck, Internet Filters, that is going to be you and your IT department's best friend. As soon as you can, get an email out to your IT or show up to their office with a large Dunkin' Donuts coffee. I know all of us IT guys definitely love the Dunkin' Donuts coffee, but if you show up with that filters list and a coffee, your IT department should be super happy to help you out, especially if you show up with a list. Like, these are the ports that I need opened. It makes their research so much easier. And the sooner you get that done, the better. I believe we had a school that had some conversation on public IP addresses versus internet filters. You want to have that conversation way ahead of time. So this week, if you can, grab that internet list, ship it off to that IT department. Outside of that, you also this week want to go through and make sure all of your equipment is up to date. Make sure your Windows is up to date. That's always a big one with your drivers if you're on PC. And also your game is up to date as well. I know we all have great internet connections, but when you're pulling down from the game publisher's servers, they like to save a little money. So even though 1 gigabyte should download super fast, I guarantee on game day, it's going to take you 2 hours. That's just the way that cookie crumbles. And if you can, if your IT department is so kind as to open up the window a little earlier for you on game day, definitely try to give a peek at it around noon. They like to ship out updates on Tuesdays. And if you're playing a Tuesday title, that'll sneak up on you if you're trying to log in at 3:30 for a 4 o'clock game and you got to do some updates. Wired connections are super important as well. All of these games are going to be dealing with frame data. We're talking 60th of a second, especially things like Smash. Nintendo already has really rough peer connection servers. So being on Wi-Fi is really going to be a detriment to your players. Make sure you get those wired connections. Xbox, PS4, PC, that should be super easy. But Nintendo Switch, you're going to need to go and purchase a Ethernet adapter. On the back of your Nintendo Switch dock, there will be a USB in the back that should be open. This little Ethernet dongle takes Ethernet, shifts it into USB. It will make your player's Nintendo Switch experience significantly better. If you don't have that wired connection, you really do run into, my players like to call it the still movie slides, because you're seeing like one frame every second. Gets really rough to play that way. So please make sure you have those wired connections set up. Things you might want to consider in the future as your esports program grows, you're going to have a lot of people interested in esports that are not necessarily players. Here at DC, I have 2 students who are seriously interested into jumping into shoutcasting, which is essentially broadcasting for video games. I'm not sure why we have a different name for it. It really is ESPN for video games. And I believe MHSEL is starting our shoutcasting contest this season. So bring those students in and get those games out there and televised. It brings parents in, it brings the rest of the school in, gives them an opportunity to watch. If you're on PC, that's super easy through OBS. I believe Playverse wouldn't, but YouTube has some really nice OBS videos available on how to set up your first stream. Might be something we consider putting together for you guys later as well. For the Nintendo Switches, you're going to want either a Elgato streaming device or a Liver Media Live Gamer game capture card. I personally have had the most luck with the Avermedia, although the Elgato is the name to have. I think that covers that slide for us there. Like I said, this one's gotten really super short. All right, when we first started doing this new coaches seminar, a lot of my time was spent in the Playverse platform itself, walking coaches through Playverse. Where do you find all that information? Over the last 4 years, Playverse has really gotten that platform together and made it super intuitive. So in our talk with Ryan and Maggie earlier, we didn't feel that we needed to spend as much time with the Playverse platform. Their YouTube videos online are super awesome. The platform itself is very intuitive on where you should be clicking, how you can get to your chat logs. So instead, I thought I would spend some time talking about everybody's favorite viral meme right now, 10 things I wish I knew before I start. If anybody recently played Elder Scrolls or Baldur's Gate, or if you're just a regular gamer like myself, every time you go to get a new video game, check out the top things I wish I had known. So we thought we'd develop this slideshow like this. What are the top 10 things I wish I had known before I started this esports life? In no particular order, number 1, bigger is not always better. When I first sat in the coach's seat for esports, I had a room filled with 40-some kids. I'm like, wow, that's a good amount of kids. How do I make this bigger? And in my first year, I think I almost had a heart attack trying to balance all the separate game titles, game equipment, who's practicing on what day. Bigger is not always better in this situation. We want to offer our players a legitimate varsity experience where they get the attention of their coaches and their moderator to guide them through switching from playing on our own into playing in a team sport. So the bigger that area gets, the harder it really is, especially in your first year, to manage. So if you're looking at your selection of players and you're finding you only have 10 players interested in esports, that's a really good place to start. You'll be able to get to know those individuals really, really well, start adapting your coaching strategy to their play styles as well. And if you're not a gamer, it'll give you a really good chance of learning that game along with them. Number 2, what is popular now may not always be. As Ryan mentioned at the beginning of this seminar, my Rocket League team won a national championship last year. I thought that's going to bring all my players in. Rocket League's going to blow up big for me in this 23-24 school year. And I'm having a hard time finding a third player. Rocket League is just not the title in my school right now. But when I turned around, I have 3 Splatoon teams that want to start up and go out of nowhere. So what you build now and the games and titles you're supporting now might not be the games and titles that are supported next year. Unlike the traditional school sport where football and soccer has always been around, and once a generation we might see a lacrosse come in esports, game titles are always fluctuating. Playverse's biggest title used to be League of Legends, and now it's not as big anymore. We're seeing Smash Brothers and Splatoon take over here in Michigan. So be prepared that year to year, the title that might be near and dear to your heart might not be as popular with the students next year. Oh, I blocked my own screen. I can't read 3. Limitations to what you can do. There's always going to be a point where you're going to be running out of time. You're going to have 3 titles going on at once. And what room can you be in? Set a goal for yourself early on what you want to get done. We're only going to be able to go so deep, whether it's I'm running between 4 rooms for 4 different titles, or Super Smash Brothers is now a popular title at your school and you've never played a fighting game before. Be comfortable that you'll be saying to your students a lot, I don't know, and I'm prepared to learn along with you. How many teams can each school have? Is it 1 per title? As of right now, we're unlimited on the number of teams per title and play verse. Last year's Smash, I had 5 separate Smash teams. Ryan wants to jump in. Maybe there was a change.
No, unlimited teams can participate, but only 2 teams from your school are eligible to qualify for playoffs, and they must battle it out by the semifinals at least, because we just don't let 2, Divine Child A and Divine Child B can't square off in finals. So we would adjust or tweak the bracket to make sure they would at least see who the winner is to go on. But you can have as many. We have a lot of schools have like 4 or 5 Smash teams because that game's just crazy popular for us. But only 2 can qualify for playoffs. The top 2 out of the ones you have.
I had that happen last year with my Smash team. My 3rd Smash team qualified for playoffs, but because I already had 2 in playoffs, they unfortunately will be pulled out. So please don't overpromise yourself. Don't burn yourself out in the first year. Be aware of what your limitations are as far as your knowledge are, so that you can do a really good year a really good season for your students. Number 4, core ideas. This is one I really wish I had started at the very first year of my esports journey, where I needed to make that decision of, are we more casual? Are we more competitive? What is going to be our driving principles in gameplay? As the coach, you really do need to sit down and decide for yourself, where are you and where is that school principle going to drive you? Are you going for a casual, open environment, or are you going to use the football model and practice 4 or 5 times a week? That is really up to you as a coach. And that might change season to season. This season, you might decide, hey, we're going to go casual. We'll practice one day. We'll do 1 game day so I can experience all the titles. And the next season, you might find out that, wow, I have 1 hyper dedicated team. I'll practice them 5 days a week. And then I'll have later practices once or twice for the titles so everybody can participate. But I have this 1 really hyper team. So pick your core idea and strategy for the season and stick to it. And document. Oh, my wife would laugh at me if she ever saw this video, because at home, I never write anything down. Here, write everything down, document everything out for yourself. I decided to give varsity letters away, and I made a decree my very first year. If you made it to the top 10 in a state event, your team got varsity letters. Or if you played with me for 3 years across your entire year, this year you're Smash, this year you're Rocket League, because you're trying out that esports space. Say, give me 3 years of your time and I will get you a varsity letter. 3 years for a lot of my players hit last year, and I had not started that documentation. And I had to run through the school like, how long have you played for me? How long have you played for me? And I still somehow messed up and gave a varsity letter to a student who only had 2 years in. So set yourself up a system, get a nice folder structure together, whether you're a Google Sheets person, a Google Doc style person, or you have an entirely organized Google Drive. Make sure you're writing down. Get your club rules written down so that all your players can have them. If you're going to do varsity letters, what's the stipulations for your varsity letter? If you're going to have academic requirements, what are those? Get them written down so that not only you remember, but your players remember as well. Especially esports is getting really big, and as your students get excited, they're going to find different leagues and different tournaments that they want to play in as well. What's your policy on that? Are you going to let them play under your school banner in any high school league or high school weekend event that they can find? Or do you want to be a little more control, or not, I don't want to say controlling, a little more I'm not coming up with a word to stick in there. Prudent about which tournaments they want to participate in, especially in the esports space. One of the things we discovered is there's money to be had in some of these events. AVGL just ran a tournament last year for Rocket League where they were giving $5,000 away per player. How are you going to handle that money? We made the mistake of not planning that out before we went into the tournament, and then we were having to hash it out halfway through the tournament of how the money was going to be split. That's a really uncomfortable conversation to have with your players mid-season. So plan out all of your systems. Are you going to participate in money events? Are you not? Have it documented and written down. Next one, right? Set a do good goal. As the coach, this one is for you especially. What do you want to excel in this season? Do you want to excel in your administration? Like, okay, I have this tournament, the play verse usage, and we're going to take the titles themselves more casually and just get the bugs worked out of the system. Do you want to dedicate yourself to one title? I'm going to learn Smash this year. Pick something that you want to do well this year and stick to it, give it your focus. So at the end, you have something that you're proud of yourself for, trying to stop that coach burnout for you. Broadcasting is another great one this year, especially with shoutcasting starting up. This one ties back to the setting standards and documentations. Set your participation expectations. If you're going for that varsity level traditional sports style, what's your practice expectations? Are we practicing 3 days a week? Are we going to be here at 4 o'clock? Are we practicing at home, but you have to be on at 5 o'clock? Set those expectations down for your gamers and let them know them. Otherwise, they're questioning, can I miss a day? Is this really a practice? I show up when I like. That really does cause a headache for you. So get those expectations out there, get them written down, and hold your players to it. If you're a classroom teacher, you definitely know they're going to test where your boundaries are, and you need to have something to be able to point to and say, nope, this is the expectation for our team. Before I jump ahead to 8, running back to number 7, these are gamers for the most part. So what you might find that you have to set is a healthy expectation for practice. They might practice with you at 4 o'clock and then go home and keep practicing, putting way more hours in than normal. I believe at the college level, and Ryan will correct me if I'm wrong on this one, we outline how many hours a college athlete can practice their sport. You might find you have to do that with esports as well. They'll play these games well into the night, trying to grind them out. Set that expectation of how much is a healthy play time that'll keep them competitive, but also not interfere with their health or academics. Speaking of health and academics, mechanical and mental, the kids love working on the mechanical. I have students in Smash who will lab the strangest interactions that might only happen 1 in every 30 matches that they find, but they're going to lab those mechanics out. One of the things our esports players really haven't experienced is the mental end of this game. If we look at traditional sports, and I know I lead on those a lot, we have students who have been playing soccer and football and volleyball since they were in elementary school. My brother just reffed I think it was a first grader soccer event, and it was really just a bunch of little kids running around kicking a ball. He had an absolute riot with it, but we've started teaching them since they were little. For our gamers, they've been playing these games a lot on their own, and they've developed a lot of bad mental habits. You really want to teach your players how to identify when they've hit what we call in the gaming world tilt, where their mental space has gone very, very negative, and they start using high risk, high reward behaviors that really just don't work in the esports space. I believe I'm still trying to get together a tilt presentation for Ryan that we can throw up on the YouTube channel here. where I'll take about 45 minutes to cover all the signs of tilt and the mental space and how to bring those players back. But the key one to that is being able to identify your player that's in stress, telling them to put that controller down and take a deep breath. Smash is another good example. It's the one I'm a head coach for. If your player loses game one and they're looking really stressed, you don't have to jump right into that game two. There's a couple minute window there. Have your player put the controller down, step away from the console, and take that deep breath. This is another place where your fellow esports players really can help you out. They can rally around that player, cheer them up, help them with, I saw you were doing this. Oh, the opponent's leaving this kind of opening. Having those other players there, talking with them, cheering them on, hyping them up is really, really important. Don't let them get locked in. Our instinct as a gamer myself is to hit go again as fast as you can, trying to get those points back. And that's just going to bury your players deeper and deeper. I think if I had to balance mechanical and mental, I think if your player has a high mental game, they can make up for low mechanicals way more than high mechanicals can make up for low mental.
I'm going to jump in real quick, Eric, and he kind of alluded to it as well. But, with traditional sports, a lot of kids have been redirected based on their behavior since they've been young, right? As he mentioned down in first grade, hey, you can't push because you got mad somebody stole the ball from you. They've been corrected. This is the first time they're really ever going to be corrected because usually they haven't been playing these games while being supervised unless they're in front of mom and dad or grandma, whatever it is. So those issues will happen with, rage quitting and wanting to do something with the controller or their language, obviously. We do encourage, and I know a lot of you are probably teachers or educators and you're busy and you're trying to get copies done after school and things. And so, but it really is important for you to stay there, to supervise, to be on the voice channel, so you can listen and correct those things. If we ever do, and they do happen very rarely, where we have some poor sportsmanship, it's usually because kids were unsupervised, or that behavior isn't being redirected, or you're not turning into a learning experience. So I appreciate Eric kind of mentioning that.
Not a problem. And one of the things with mental is when I first started exploring tilt and sports psychology as it applies to esports, I'm a rager video game player. I'm 47 years old. And if I'm not careful, I still slam desks because there's no way they pulled that off. That's what I thought tilt and the mental game look like coming into esports. Oh, when they're starting to throw the controller, when they're starting to slam the desk, they're in tilt. Digging into the sports psychology of this, tilt happens for our players way sooner than that. So to couple off of what Ryan just said, you really do have to be paying attention to your players as soon as that body language starts hunching over. As educators, we see it with tests. I can remember teaching in science class, wow, that physics problem is way over these players' heads. They're not understanding. They're doing that curl in on themselves. You'll see the same thing happen with your players. The slouch will start, or they'll get the exact opposite. They either go way oblique or way acute instead of that nice relaxed position. You're already starting to get into tilt. As soon as the good opportunity shows up, have that player put the controller down, stand up, take a deep breath, get your players to hype them up, because tilt starts right there. And in games that are in 60ths of a second response time, being any sorts of angry just blocks that out. Number 9, something else that I really wish I had known way early: empower your team. As I reflect on soccer and football again, and all of these big TV productions we have going on for football and soccer and the like, students very rarely have their hands in deep on that. Esports is brand new. It's going to be you and your players. This is a perfect opportunity to empower them. My Splatoon team, I'm there for the mental game for my Splatoon players, but as far as the tactics, the strategies, the coaching, that happens to fall on a player that I'll call Pixel. She runs all 3 Splatoon teams for me. I'm just there to make sure their mental game is solid, but she's got the strategies. She's got the tactics. How often does a high school football player get to tell the team, we're going to be running this strategy. I saw this cool new thing we should try out. You really don't get to see that. The coaches have like tight grips on it. This is an opportunity for these players to really shine. Maybe it is in esports. Maybe it's broadcasting. I have a couple players now doing my websites, doing the background graphics for the podcasting, getting in there and doing the shoutcasting. They're not going to get those opportunities in traditional sports. And that is a massive skill that they can develop that will pay off dividends in their actual careers. So as soon as you can and feel comfortable, lean into your players. What can they do for you? They will teach you a ton. Last but not least, as you go through these previous 9 and put it together and you pick your core ideas and you develop your expectations and you get your system written down, trust your process. Give it time. We're going to make mistakes. We're all human. Season 1, by the end of season 1, you're going to be wiping the sweat off your brow like, yeah, we did it, but I wish we had done these things better. That's completely okay. It's season 1. Trust your process, stick to it. Your players, when they see you sticking to your process, are going to respect it a whole lot more than if you try to keep adjusting mid-season. They're going to be confused. They'll no longer know what practice is, what your expectations for practices are. Set your process at the beginning, trust it, carry it at least through a season. Do yourself a favor, carry it through the full year. Take the summer to replan your process, come back at it again from another angle. Lastly, everybody here is super kind, super nice. Hop in the Discords, ask questions. We're all new. Nobody is an expert. I just happen to have 3 years head start on a couple people, and I've gotten my bumps and bruises beforehand. Let me help you not have to get your own bumps and bruises. Jump in that Discord and ask. Email Ryan Casey or myself, and we'll be more than happy to help you out.
And
Ryan, I would like to say I did it in less than an hour.
that is great. That was perfect. That's exactly what we wanted you to cover. So I know there's a few more things that Eric might touch on, but this really is as we go through the next couple of slides, like a chance to ask questions. And if whether you want to do it in the chat or if you want to just kind of unmute and ask a question. Did you want to cover some of these still real quick, Eric? Or you want to?
Yeah, we can jump into these. I had forgotten it was there. The slide previous to this, do you want, going back, especially in esports nowadays, your first season, you really are in a director role. How do these things operate? What is your administrative side? You're going to be in the Playverse app, handling chats with the other coaches, figuring out how the match assistant works. Take this first season and just own your role as the director, and then pick a game that maybe you become the expert on in your school to coach, but let your other players, your other team captains really help you out with that coaching role. A couple things, because I saw a couple coaches say in the chat that they had multiple teams as well. The tryout method in place. For Smash, that one happens to be really easy, at least for me. You run a double elimination bracket and your top ones down, those are your varsity team. We happen to have a color system based off of our school's colors. I see a lot of schools do that as well, where red is my top team, gray is my second, and then as I get into black and yellow, those are my JV teams. In Rocket League, there's a system called six-manning, and that's where you put teams together. Then the next game, you switch up the teams, have them play again, and what you're watching for is how players interact. Putting all your best players on one Rocket League team isn't necessarily the best strategy. Sometimes you want a player who can keep the pace of the game calm. So try that six-man method when you're doing something like Rocket League or Splatoon or possibly even Overwatch, when you have the option of running multiple teams. Shuffle up who's playing with who and see how the players interact with each other. I think that's it there. Management, just to reiterate off of our top 10, Your presence in the room matters the most. And something else I would add into this is your presence with the players and the players in the room as well. You're there, you're watching the player, you're trying to hype them up. Get the rest of that team involved. I'm making a switch this year. In the past, I noticed I had a lot of my players milling about when they weren't actively playing. Get them involved as the hype squad for the person that's currently playing. Send them over to the shoutcaster booth. Have them give color commentary to help the shoutcaster out. The more they're involved, the more they'll build that school culture. And last but not least, communication is the key, whether it's between us coaches in the chat. We lose a lot of inflection in our voice when we're typing. I know I get very, very robotic. Might be my military communication piece there, but I'm very short and bullet pointed. I swear it's not that I'm mad or anything. I just type super fast and leave things as is. Even amongst your players, communication is key as well there. Rocket League, if they're not talking to each other, if they're not communicating what they're seeing, they're probably not in a really solid mental state to play that game. Last but not least, please monitor the language on your players as well. They get super excited. They're super revved up. As Ryan and I said earlier, they've been playing a lot of these games on their own. There's a culture in esports of a little bit of trash talk or toxic talk. We don't want to see that here at the high school level. So if you're in the room and everybody's keeping everybody hyped up, it also makes it easier to spot that language appropriateness and respect for competing players. All right. I think we've covered practices and game days. Social media, the landscape's really changing here. In the past, I really supported Twitter and Facebook. That really could be because I'm an old guy. It seems like the students and the families are moving away from that space. Even Twitch seems to be having some difficulties. I myself am moving to YouTube this season. And the reason why is YouTube allows me to keep my videos there longer. So Twitch, you get approximately 30 days where the video is there on the Twitch website. And after 30 days, it goes away. There's some, if you're what do they call that? If you're an affiliate, they'll keep it slightly longer. So there's things that can stretch that time period out. But at some point, you're going to lose your gameplay. So there's quite a few playoff runs that I had in Playverse that the videos are gone. I no longer have access to them because Twitch deleted them. So I will be moving over to YouTube this year. And my web design class is actually building the website out for me this year. So that's awesome. All right. I think we're done there. And that brings us to Q&A.
Yeah, we'll pause here for a minute. I have a few more things that I'll touch on, but I do want to pause and make sure that we're giving you guys an opportunity to ask some questions. So, now is the time. If you're in the chat or if you want to unmute, go ahead. Eric is definitely the guy you want to ask some questions on.
What do you want to know? I'll hook you up.
Or Eric, you did such a great job. There were no questions to ask.
Feels like my classroom. Any questions? No, we're good.
Yeah.
Go for the uncomfortable wait time, right?
Right.
Cool. Did we have anything in the chat we missed?
I'm not seeing it. It looks like we're all good so far. So
all right.
I will cover just a couple of things here. A couple years ago, it looks like we might have gotten one. Let's see, we completed the season last week. We had issues with other coaches not communicating in a timely manner. Is that common? Lots of forfeits.
In the preseason, yes, especially week 1 of the preseason. This is where that IT document comes into play. A lot of these teams are walking into season 1. They think they're all set. They sent the IT document over and either the ports didn't get opened up or the rules timing is wrong. Preseason is definitely preseason 1 is where everybody is getting those kinks worked out. They may have even gotten hit by the update bug where they thought they were ready to go, jump in, and they're updating. A lot of coaches are balancing several teams here. in the beginning. So as they get their feet under them, communication gets better and better as you go. I believe preseason 1 is also nationwide. So you can get like East Coast to West Coast. So that'll bring in nap problems as well. As we come in to Michigan only, that should get better and better.
That's a good segue too, because the first bullet point here on this slide just talks about usually it used to be worse a couple years ago, but they use a new scheduling system to make sure that people who just do not have their tech needs together aren't getting scheduled against people that are ready to play. So we've kind of changed that around. It's really got our match rate up to like 96% of our matches make it through. Usually if there is a forfeit, it's because of what Eric mentioned, or the player no-shows. You know, some of these kids don't realize like, hey, there's an expectation, which we've talked about, that, you know, you wouldn't skip your volleyball game, you wouldn't skip your track meet, so don't skip your esports match, right? So that's usually where we see one of the two reasons. It looks like Mason had a question. You want to go ahead?
Yeah, is my mic working?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
All right. I'll just apologize. I am a little under the weather right now.
Sorry to hear that.
I guess it's kind of for Eric in the more coaching department, more in the play versus side. I got two of them. One, I'm actually a football coach. I'm an assistant coach. This is my first time being a head coach, and so I have some parents as well as some kids asking about parent meetings, and I didn't know if you had any advice on how to go about a parent meeting, or I guess in light terms, not dealing with them, but more or less helping parents understand everything that obviously these kids who haven't played a sport before or don't even know what a physical are, how to explain that to them of what we're doing.
So the first couple of years, I definitely ran your parent meetings. You find as you go on, the information gets out there, you get your documents set up. And when you put your emails out to parents at the beginning of the year and you send those documents along, you start to see less and less parents in those parent meetings. And eventually, like this year, that's gone on the wayside for me. My parents are comfortable communicating through email and keeping up with the documents. But if you have a lot of new players, a lot of new parents, and esports is new to your building, I would definitely run a parent night. To keep my parents, because I have so many parent schedules, and I put out a Google form like, what meeting time is best for you? And it was a pretty even distribution between like 3 p.m., 5 p.m., and 7 p.m., and we can't really please them all. So one of the things I did do is I started to use Zoom calls and Google Meets to run my parent meetings. There wasn't really a necessary need for them to come in and sit in the building. And I found the parents really enjoyed that because they could listen in with one ear and still get some work done around the house and ask questions where they wanted to. Does that answer it for you, Mason?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
What was your second one?
Obviously this is new to all the kids. What did you do to kind of get them to be motivated to get things done? Because we're now 4 days away from enrollment, and I still have kids who won't link their accounts to Play Versus, and they don't get on communication apps, even when I'm right there with them. So I don't know if you got an advice on that as well.
And this is that hard call, back to bullet point 1 on things I wish I knew, where I always thought bigger was better. That very first year, I was very accommodating to everything, trying to keep that group size big. What I have learned through, and I'm sure you as a football coach could tell and expound on way more better than I could, you got to set that standard for the player or they won't get on the communication device. So set yourself a day. Everybody needs to come in. This is your last chance to come in, get your accounts linked. Otherwise, you're not participating in my season, and you might lose a kid or two, but it will pay dividends as far as getting that behavior pattern set up for your players, and then they will start that expectation.
Awesome.
Yeah, good questions. So
yeah,
in Cameron,
I remember that stress. Like, if I do this, I'll lose all my players. And it's not true. You might lose one or two, but the rest will definitely do what you need. Sorry, Ryan.
No, I was saying that Cameron also mentioned in the chat that he's been using some more. If you're familiar with that online kind of digital newsletter website, it's like I think the basic account you can absolutely handle anything you're doing in your esports role. It looks like that was a success with parents, so that's a great idea. Thank you for sharing that, Cameron.
I hadn't heard of that one. I'll give that a try.
As we're just waiting for other questions to roll in as well, one of the popular things we get a lot of times, because it's all over the map, is like fundraising and budgeting. Some programs are fully supported. If you're a new program, maybe that's probably not the case. You kind of got to prove that, you're going to last the test of time and you have a lot of kids engaged. So there are links on here that I'll send out that talk about different ideas for fundraising and budgeting and different ways you can try and financially support your program. One of the things we did this year is I have two different fundraisers going on, fundraising opportunities, I should say. One is through esports gear, which is like our partner for our athletic apparel, if you will, that's focused all on actual esports jerseys and flags and sleeves, headbands, hoodies, pullovers, t-shirts, hats. I mean, they've got everything. And it's really cool because you can set up an online store and you can tweak the pricing of those items so you can kind of upcharge a little bit and then sell that to family, friends, peers, others in your school community. And then the difference in that money actually comes back to support your own program. So that's a really simple way that you can get some really cool gear, then also financially support your program. And the other one just comes from a company that kind of runs one of those text-a-thon campaigns, where football coach maybe you guys went around and sold like the coupon booklets. That's what the football team in my community does. It does that, except it's like a digital one. So people would donate, their 20, 25 bucks. They get a link to download a coupon app that gives them coupons all over across the country, for restaurant stores. But again, they give you a percentage of all those donations and things. And those are just two really simple ways to generate some money. You can write letters and just knock on doors, go to some local businesses, especially anything that's tied to STEM or computer science, manufacturing. Those are really easy ones to hit up to ask if they want to support really this new program. You can talk about all the benefits of, we have a lot of kids that are participating for the first time and we're looking for some support. And you can throw a patch on a jersey, different things like that. So
I see Cameron asked, but will we see the pre-team advanced each week? Yes. Usually my habit is when I walk into school Monday mornings, I open up Playverse. I look at, see who each of the matches are for the week. I run a school Discord for all of them, and I drop in who we're playing to all of the teams that week. And then I send messages out to the coaches. Generally, I don't get a response from the coach until the day of the match, but it starts that conversation early. Usually day of, I get responses by like noon from the coaches and get to know them, get to know like, are they going to be ready promptly at game time? Do they need a couple minutes? Is somebody running late? So I tend to try to reach out as fast as possible.
Last things I just want to talk about here, and then I'll hang out for the last few minutes, see if we have any more questions, is that Shoutcaster Showdown event that Eric mentioned. This is the first time I know of anything really like this being done, at least at the high school level, but it's starting up here. Actually, the registration's open, and we are trying to find the best Smash and Rocket League shoutcasters in the state. So whether a kid wants to enter as a solo, a one-person entry, or as a duo with a partner, they can represent your school. Our first round are all virtual submissions, so they're going to take their YouTube link, their Twitch link, whatever it is, and they're going to submit it. We have a panel of judges that are going to score them. And then the top ones are going to be invited to Ferris State University to their brand new esports complex on Saturday, November 18th. And the kids are going to battle it out for trophies and for a scholarship award. And so we're really excited about that. And then we also have the return. We ran this last year, our Explore Esports Conference, which is going to be on Friday, December 8th, with the next day being our semifinals and championships for the fall season. But whether you're new to esports or you've been doing it for a while, or you want to just level up and you're an advanced program, we're going to have a lot of college folks, professional organizational folks, talk about all the different career and college opportunities and benefits associated with esports. So we're really excited about those events. I'll send those. You'll see those in emails probably quite a few emails talking about those over the next month or so, but just be on the lookout for those. So if it makes sense for you to participate, we would love to have you. I'm going to skip that video if it lets me. Discord. Eric mentioned that. That's a really simple way to get information from us, MHSEL. Play Versus also has a Discord channel where they have their coaches updates. And if there's a problem or, a random error or a bug with a game, they post that information in there as well. Might save you from having to submit a ticket. But I would really love it if you could join our Discord. It's a great way to connect with the other coaches, set up scrimmages that way. Say, hey, just like you're picking Eric's brain, hey, you can go into the Rocket League chat or the Overwatch channel, and say, hey, does anybody know any advice on how to do X or Y? And it just seems to me, Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's actually, I forced myself to learn it and get into it. It is a faster way to communicate than an email. It really is. And in my
100%.
In my opinion. So if you can, hop on the MHSEL Discord. Love to have you on there. It's an easier way to communicate. Otherwise, we do a lot of highlighting on Twitter. So we'll probably be highlighting some new schools. So I might be reaching out, or Maggie, my partner in crime here, who's the assistant director, might be asking you for a photo or a picture of your team. If you can follow that at MASSP Esports. If you are a Twitter person or your school has a Twitter account, we'd love to have you follow us. We'll follow you back, but we do a lot of matchup of the week. We post on there, which is cool for the schools to see, especially we get a lot of unique school matchups that don't typically happen because we can go outside the traditional athletic conference or countywide conference. We can have Mackinac Island taking on somebody in Southeast Michigan or a Grand Rapids school taking on a school up in the UP, right? That happens all the time. It's really cool. So I'm going to stop talking. There's the contact information for Eric, Maggie, myself, and we have a minute left. So we will hang tight for another minute, or I can hang out after too for those who have questions, but now is your chance to ask, and I'll send up follow information tomorrow. Yeah, no problem, Les. Thanks for joining us.
See you, Les. Yeah, definitely. The more questions I get to answer, the more it makes me think about my own strategies. So please ask away. All right, good. All right, I think we knocked this one out of the park.
All right, cool. I'm not seeing any questions, it looks like. So obviously email if you have a follow-up, hop on Discord, ask away. You can ask a large group of coaches that way, actually, if you're on Discord. So that's cool. But hopefully this helped. Sounds like it did. So thank you everybody for joining us. Good luck on the rest of the last week of preseason. I'll be sending kind of a good luck message out at the end of this week or the very start of next week as the regular season kicks off. Eric, as always, thank you for all that you do for MHSEL. We appreciate it.
Thank you for letting me do it. I really love this.
All right. Take care, everybody.
See you.